Hello, my lovely hummingbirds, and welcome back to another episode of Makeup and Motivation here on Pop Culture with your lovely host, Monroe. How's it going, everyone? If you are new here, my lovely hummingbirds, welcome to the glittering. If you are coming back, welcome back to the glittering. Here on Makeup and Motivation, it is the series on this channel where we do a bunch of fun, sparkly, mostly cosplay-inspired looks that go in congruence with a mental health /life journey topic of the day, as well as covering news, media, entertainment, and things going on in popular culture, as well as like movies, music, etc. Updates and shit like that. So, hi, welcome. For today's makeup look, it is inspired by none other than La Catrina from the Book of Life. It's not a Disney Pixar movie, it's a DreamWorks. No, I think so. I think it's DreamWorks. Oh, my brain. But it is all about like Mexican folklore and the Day of the Dead, and not the Day of the Dead, the like world of the dead. But it does tie in a little bit with like I'm like blanking out so hard right now, La Catrina, and the two different worlds of like Los Recordados, which is also, if you guys have seen Coco, touches upon that of how like in the world of the dead, if like people are forgotten type of thing. But I would love to do a review on this movie, just because I love it so much. It's such a cute movie. The girl and the guy fall for each other, and then there's the other guy that also falls for her, and they're all besties, and they have to save San Angel. I think it's called San Angel. We're mixing cities in Coco and Book of Life. The point is, I'm tired. It's late when I'm recording this. As the makeup look for today, and today's topic of conversation is in need of a release, where we are going to cover like how to properly release our emotions, especially if we're having negative ones, and releasing of memories and all this shit, which is ironic considering I can't fucking sync my phone to release all this storage space that says that it's used, and it's really freaking not, but it's fine. But yeah, hi, I've been gone for a fucking month and done some, mainly because it's the space. I've done so much. My iCloud and my phone will not sync. Yes, I've tried everything. Nothing works. It really is just the connectivity here, and I'm tired. I'm tired of Apple telling me it has been like freaking 90 days that it hasn't updated. Just damn near. But yeah, I'm rambling back and forth. I don't want to say this is going to be my last video. I really hope it's not. I have a couple more things I want to do this week or in the coming weeks. I might like have to space things out, and we might not get makeup and motivation next week. I really hope we do, please. But all that aside, for today's video, I know this is the part where I usually go into a moment of silence and then proceed with the makeup look. However, I do want to do something a little bit different today for today's moment of silence for this episode. And also, my lovely hummingbirds, whether you are listening on Spotify or watching me on YouTube or just listening on YouTube while you do chores in the background, the topics that we are discussing in today's episode are going to be very heavy topics. So please, viewer and listener discretion is advised. We are going to talk about things pertaining to war and genocide and conspiracy and deaths and many just sad shit that's going on right now. So just be conscientious of that. If you guys don't want to hear about that, you're like, Monroe, I just want to see the makeup look, cool. If you're like, not really into the whole Catrina thing, that's fine too. But yeah, just this, if that's not something you want to listen to, this is not the episode for you. Also, because I am talking about releasing for today's topic of conversation, I'm going to go into so many forms of release, including some not so healthy ones. So if you are not in a mental space to really dive into that, my lovely hummingbirds, then do not tune in. Honking confirmation. If you or someone you know needs assistance, please use your resources, whether that is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, whether that is addiction assistance services, abuse services, whichever it may be. Please use your resources. Now, with all that out of the way, we're going to get into the makeup look. It's going to be half Catrina, and also I'm going to kind of go sort of for like a little vampira look on my other side of the face. We're going to see how this comes out. I have no idea what I'm doing. I really don't. I was like, I'm going to try and do this. Yeah. We're going to see how it comes out. I do not do a sugar skull wait. I actually probably have been for some time now. But I just, yeah, I get impatient sometimes. But, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the makeup looks. If you do stick around, I hope you stick around for all the information that I have for y'all. And yeah. Also, before I forget, if you choose to interact with this video, please be kind and conscientious in the comments. Okay? I don't want any fighting or arguing with one another over the information that I'm going to divulge in today's episode. Be kind to your fellow hummingbirds, my lovely glittering. Be kind to each other. Okay? Okay, that's it. That's all I gotta say to y'all. Without further ado, this is the longest fucking intro I've ever done, y'all. Might be wrong about that, but without further ado, ahora sí, the makeup look. Enjoy. My lovely hummingbirds, for today's episode, besides La Catrina, we're also taking inspiration from the national flower of Mexico, la Dahlia. But to kick us off here with our look for today from the LimeCrime Venus Chroma palette, we are starting with the shade Genesis. Because La Catrina, while she does have like the typical sugar skull black eyes, there is like kind of a ombre effect going on towards the inner part of her eye where it's black out and then subtly into that bright little aqua we're going to get into as well later on in the video. So yeah, I was like, this is perfect. We're going to go in this with this like dark teal looking shade. Up next, to layer on top of there, we went in with this tealy, sparkly, shimmery Saturn shade from the same palette. No, this did not give the desired effect that I was going for, but I included it anyway because I didn't wipe after this. I kind of just layered the next shade on there, which is Seafoam. And see, it's like a progressive little build up to that pretty, like, turquoisey teal color that she has on her eyes. Yeah. Up next, with the Venus Immortalis palette, we're gonna go in with the shade Unseen. And for this, we're just gonna go ahead and like shade around the border of everything that we did with Genesis, just to deepen that look and start really creating that ombre effect from outward in. Once we've gone ahead in that, it is time to get our petal drawing asses on with Eros. Same from the Venus Chroma palette. And here you're just gonna do your very best to get those Dahlia Seeming Cempasúchil colored petals on there. And I did do 2 layers, so I do this first row of petals and then a second row above that. And honestly, this was one of like the longest processes of the entire look. This is on like triple speed because I was so scared of like just fucking it up. Up next, we have this gorgeous, fiery, orangey, red. It's not a red or a reddish orange is what I mean to say, jeez. It is the shade Hanky Panky, and it is from Dem Blonde Glitter Cosmetics. It is one of their pigments. I absolutely love all of their pigments. They are so bright, so like saturated in color. It's absolutely beautiful. I did struggle doing each little individual petal because I wanted to follow like a certain pattern, so that's just me personally struggling over here. But yeah, look at it, it's so bright. Once we've gone ahead and applied that, we're gonna go in with a lighter orange from the Zulu by Juvia's. And with this one, we're just doing same, like in that first row, we're doing every other petal because I wanted to do like this cute little effect. I don't know. Any excuse for me to use as many shades as possible, honestly. Also, Cempasúchil flowers range from anywhere from a bright yellow to bright orange, so technically I'm like following a color scheme. Up next, while Cempasúchil might not be this color, Dahlia flowers definitely can be, minus all the glitter, in the shade Bong Rip from the Purple Haze Glam Baddie palette. This palette is no longer in continuation. I got this like freaking 3 years ago, maybe. Still haven't used all the shades to their entirety, so I will keep using this till I am done with it. But look at it, it's all sparkly and glittery and just brings it all together. Now, to get us into a vampiresque-ish look that we're gonna do on our right side, kicking this off with the No Drama from the Menage Muah palette from Colourpop. We're starting in on the inner corner and working our way out. I really wanted it to make it seem like a little petal changing colors as like winter progresses and all that good shit, but Yeah, I love it. Decay is so pretty. And then we're going in with Venus palette LimeCrime in the shade Rebirth. As you know, the Day of the Dead is all about, one, not remembering the drama but the good times lived with those that are no longer with us, and a moment where the veil is thin enough that they can come back and see us. Up next, we're going in with the 1484, that glimmery, golden, dusty shade from the Venus Exposed palette. Honestly, I should have left it like this, but I didn't. I went ahead and blended my life away. And the reason for the gold, if you guys saw in the original picture there that I added of the dahlia flowers, how it has a golden trim on some of them, that's what we went with. Up next, we got that gorgeous burgundy from also a Glam Baddie palette that is no longer in continuation. Sorry, y'all. But the No Drama from the Colourpop is very similar to this shade. For this is the little dots and cross that La Catrina has in the Book of Life. I did not place the cross in the correct spot, but we're just gonna leave that alone for now. And just doing a line that is going to be the dividing line across my face for the most part. Up next, you can't be a little sugar skull if you don't do the non-noseless nose area. I hope that makes sense. And for La Catrina, because she is La Catrina and she loves us and takes care of La Tierra de los Recordados, hers kind of looks to me like it's in the shape of a little heart. So I did my best at trying to do that. And I didn't want to use any face paint. So to seal off my face, we went in with the Venus Immortalis palette in the shade Marble. And I kind of liked this a little better than the face paint one because I didn't want to go through the work of taking all that face paint off. But also, it gave a really shimmery effect that I like, personally, that I feel like I can't get with face paint unless I add highlight or some form of glitter to it. So this really helped just cut out an extra step. And yes, I do have foundation, primer and foundation underneath this, so that also is why it's sticking so well, versus just nothing, you know. Did I go a little overboard with the look? A little past my line there? Yes, I did. But that's okay. Up next, we're drawing our lines in with some eyeliner from the Black Radiance line of makeup. We have the Continuous Creme eyeliner, and yeah, it is amazing. It is my go-to it's absolutely one of my favorite eyeliners, apart from the Urban Decay 24/7 pencil liner. This one is really, really good. Clean lines. I don't know why I went in and gave La Catrina so many teeth. I really don't, and I feel like every year I always fuck up the teeth somehow when I've done this, but that's okay. You know, art. Alright, my lovely hummingbirds, that's it from me for you for today as far as makeup goes. I'm gonna go ahead, put on the rest of my face on the other side, but in the meantime, go ahead and follow me on all of my handles. Hi, my lovely hummingbirds. So, I cannot say that sip is what ruined these lips, because I totally ruined that during the construction of this makeup look. Because I felt that it's eyeliner, by the way, what I used there. No, I did put it in there. Okay. I was like, did I put it in there? I did. And I was like, oh, it feels creamy. And I instinctually went to rub my lips together, and then I was like, Oh, that was a bad idea. But today's makeup look is half vampira, sort of, and half La Catrina from the Book of Life. The reason being, besides the fact that it was Halloween and El Dia de los Muertos 2 weeks ago now, heartbreaking. As I mentioned in the intro, your girl, me, Wi-Fi, I'm struggling now. I'm struggling to get things updated. And am I going to potentially entirely drain the rest of the storage on my phone for this episode and probably like 1 or 2 more? We're gonna see what I can shell out for this week, and then before I have to disappear again for another month or so. It's been great, but honestly longer. No, it's been a month. A month. I've been gone a month. I want to cry. But for today, and also this is going to tie into like the moment of silence. I'm doing something different with it because I can't even get into it right now because I will start crying and I just changed my contacts. But the reason for the like whole disclaimer thing that I did in the introduction of today's episode is because we are going to be covering everything going on with the Israeli-Hamas war. And all the atrocities that have unfolded since October 7th. Now, if you're sitting on the other side of your screen and or headphones or however you're listening to me and you're like, Monroe, what the fuck does this conflict actually have to do with pop culture? My lovely hummingbirds. If you're asking that, I will say this: you are not the only one that has asked me that question in recent time when I had mentioned discussing this on here. The reason being, besides the shock and grief and hurt and rage and myriad of emotions, even guilt and impotence, with viewing everything as it has unfolded before our eyes since tragedy struck that day, besides me personally feeling like it would be a massive disservice or just blatant fucking ignorance on my behalf if I didn't, and just shitty human on my behalf if I didn't, because it is a crisis. It is a crisis that is affecting humanity, and more so, besides what it has to do with pop culture, and I don't mean popular culture as a whole, I mean this podcast you're listening to and viewing. So, and yes, I do have a script. You guys know this. I script, if you're new here and you're like, I didn't know this, I script pretty much every freaking episode. I have talking points and things that I want to touch upon, and I really had to write this episode out, not just because like I didn't want like to misspeak or anything like that, but more so I had to like put these bullet points down, because if I didn't, I know I'm gonna break down. I know I'm gonna start fucking crying. I have spent the past month just watching this unfold on social media, watching the small parts that are on media, on TV, and I'm already like tearing up. My eyes are fucking burning. Great. So what does this have to do with pop culture? So pop culture has always been, to me, about more than just the tea and the gossip and latest trends and all that, especially considering that this podcast really did take off during a global pandemic, which was COVID in 2020. Throughout the years, I have tried to present information I see circulating and divulge it back to you all in the best way possible. I cannot say that I have done this entirely unbiased, because that would negate the fact that this whole channel, this whole company, is based off of my perspective and experience in life, and thus reflected forward with the hopes to inspire, give hope, or at the very least entertain and update y'all on what's going on. But more so here on pop culture, and if you've been listening this long, then you know, my lovely hummingbirds, that for me, I personally have a really strong belief that we're all interwoven and connected in one way or another, and it's not always usually portrayed through the usual media outlets. And also, a little tidbit that kind of gave me an hour right now, but as much as I tend to forget, pop culture is a media and news source and entertainment company, outlet that really dives into not just the fun stuff, but also difficult shit that's going on, including social issues, mental health, spiritual health, physical shit like endometriosis. And it is a space where I try to present the facts as they stand, as well as keeping things as light and entertaining as I can, which is why the makeup looks on Makeup and Motivation, with all the news and stuff that I give you guys, or try to at least, on a weekly basis. If the past 3 years of this podcast being live and independent has, well, taught us anything, is that everything somehow always ends up falling into a domino effect. If you guys notice a whole lot of skipping, my throat is like going out the entire time, and I've tried to record this already, and I can't, like, my voice literally breaks. So I have tea, so hopefully that will help through all of this. I am not sick. This is just a hard as shit episode for me to put forward. But anyway, as I was saying, if the past 3 years have taught us anything when it comes to not just this podcast, but also the world as a whole, everything always ends up in some sort of domino effect. And that said, on a global scale, shit has been honestly unbelievable for a while. And as much good as we have seen come out of very difficult moments, we have also seen atrocities. And quite frankly, what feels like a fucking fever dream 90% of the time since COVID started. Whether it is COVID, as I mentioned, Trump being president, the Hornet side quest that happened during fucking COVID, what the fuck was that? Including the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Mahsa Amini, plus many others. The death of Queen Elizabeth II, and Ireland simultaneously chanting "Liz in a box" in a soccer game once it was revealed that she had passed. Britney Spears being freed from her conservatorship and simultaneously releasing a book, her memoir, where she reveals her side of everything, including that JT has a real small pecker. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing at that, but honestly, it made me laugh. Aliens have been confirmed to be real. Plus, not to mention scores of natural disasters that have occurred this year alone, from wildfires to hurricanes to so much more. Things have all been varying degrees of crazy, and just, it feels like a fucking science fiction movie. And while there's been a lot of factors of shock and awe throughout all of it, as I said, I don't think anything could have prepared us for what we are seeing now occur in Gaza. And while I cannot sit here and tell y'all that I know absolutely everything pertaining to this matter, nor that I am an absolute expert, I can tell you what I do know, what I have seen in the past month and 7 freaking days, researched, and what I feel overall as a person experiencing this as part of a larger human collective. What I do know, first and foremost, all of this is fucked up, all of it. Moments such as the ones we are living in now and have been living for the past few years, I personally feel have shown us that many things can be true at once, and a range of emotions and thoughts can coexist with one another, because the world operates on a twisted grayscale of events. Sadly, in times of tragedies, disparities, or pain, more often than not, the ones who suffer are those whom are already deemed as struggling or lesser than by the confines of greater society or society at large. What I have seen over the past month and 7 days, I have seen and heard scores of videos, news articles, podcasts, documentaries, and articles all revolving around the conflict itself and about who is right or wrong in this. And thankfully, I, as a spectator to it all, have found some solace in seeing that I am not alone in my sentiments, and seeing that others are using their voices to speak up when from a distance, even if it feels completely impotent or like it will yield no results to do so. They still do. And that makes me a little more hopeful in humanity. Hi, sorry about that. I am I am struggling to do this episode. I knew my voice was gonna be in and out. I did not think I would already start crying, but as I keep going through this and mentioning the videos that I have seen, my lovely hummingbirds, it hurts. Seeing families, seeing the men of Gaza take babies out of rubble and their loved ones, and look at the remnants of what's left. I cannot tell you that it is not gut-wrenching. I cannot tell you that it is not ingrained into my brain for, honestly, for the rest of my fucking life. And granted, I am no stranger of crying on pop culture, and if you are brand new here, hi. I have all the emotions. Sorry. These little jumpy ass edits y'all gonna get on today's episode. I'm so sorry, my lovely hummingbirds, but okay, so as I was saying, as of now, we have seen what are considered war crimes. And this is not just like people that are the far left or far right or complete fucking liberals that are saying, oh, these are war crimes because this is what we're believing and propaganda and all this bullshit. No, it is literally under international law defined as war crimes taking place. And sadly, as someone living in the US, I am very, very disappointed in our leaders here, in those that are in charge, and in the Biden administration for openly supporting Israel, the Israeli government, supporting Benjamin Netanyahu, and in their efforts, and to that extent, in the support of the loss of thousands of innocent lives, thousands of children, of women, of people that should not have been lost. And trust me when I tell y'all, my lovely hummingbirds, there have been so many people who have spoken against the method in which Israel has taken action against Hamas and their retaliatory efforts as an overkill, a complete disregard for human life, ethnic cleansing, and now even more so, genocide. In all of this, there are others that support Israel, that support the Israeli government, and think it justifiable, even if not correct, what is happening in Gaza, seeming almost as a, well, that's war, shrug of a sentence. And now, if the nations of the world have come forward asking for the allowance of humanitarian aid and supplies, as aid and supplies were stuck at the Rafah border in Egypt for a really long time, and the world on a larger scale screams for a ceasefire, as Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, rejects the ceasefire and has stated that this war will last months so that Hamas can feel the pressure. Hospitals have been bombed, and even camps filled with refugees, and the stands taken was that the Palestinian people have been warned but refused to leave. And amongst these claims, once the hospitals and the camps were bombed, it was stated that Hamas were using these as stations of like their fucking, oh my god, I don't even know the fucking word, like basically they're there stationed and using innocent civilian lives as human shields. Which brings into question the military tactics that are being used if it is seeming on behalf of the Israeli government that airstrikes, missiles, and carpet bombing are the only call being made. Many humanitarian groups have spoken out against this, saying the hospitals and refugee camps should never be targeted. Egypt has agreed to take the injured at their hospitals, but conflicting reports exist on why that hasn't happened yet, including other hospitals from other countries that are surrounding Gaza. But it is being said that civilians aren't being allowed to leave, and that they are being targeted and gunned down as it happens. Now, what I have researched, with rising tensions and fears of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, everything is on edge. Everyone on whichever side that is seeking some form of justice is on edge from fear of being attacked or harmed based on their support, based on their religion, based on their ethnicity. There have already been casualties on US soil, like Wadia Al-Fayoum, the child that was murdered here in Illinois by his landlord, as well as both Jewish and Palestinian students across college campuses stateside that are being attacked. So where all of this started, technically, what we're seeing, and I can't even say it's where it started, but we're gonna get more into that in a second. But on October 7th, 2023, Hamas held a surprise attack at a kibbutz and at a music festival in Israel, attacking the individuals, killing initially reported over 1,400 and taking approximately 229 hostages. Israel has since confirmed that the numbers of those that were killed is only about 1,200. So they went down on the numbers of casualties on their end. Hamas had promised to release all of the hostages if Israel agreed to release all of the Palestinian prisoners and had captured, and the parents of the Israeli hostages pled to Netanyahu, and he said no. There have been protests outside of his home. There have been protests in Tel Aviv asking for a ceasefire. His response was that Hamas had to feel the pressure, and it's been chaos, to say the least. The numbers that I have right now are numbers that I got a couple days ago, a day ago. I don't know what day it is, 14th, a couple days ago, on the 12th. And honestly, at the rate that these numbers have been increasing, I am kind of scared to do a live check right now to see just how high they are. And anyway, since the start of this, on October 7th to now, over 11,100 Palestinians have been murdered, because all I can describe it as is murder. This includes over 8,000 children and women, nearly 3,000 remain missing, and 27,490 injured. But the numbers are suspected to be much higher due to the targeting of hospitals and the prevention of entry of new bodies and those that are wounded. As I mentioned, Israel lowered their numbers to 1,200. All of this is according to AlJazeera.com, who are on the ground there getting reports directly in Gaza, or from Gaza. Over 100 UN staff have also been killed during this, according to Reuters. There was an there was an interview. Who hosted the fucking interview? I can't remember if it was Anderson Cooper. But Emily Callahan, she is a nurse with Doctors Without Borders, and she spoke out on what she witnessed while in Gaza. And she explained that, like, the reason why she came back home to the US was because once herself and the other doctors that were there helping, the resident doctors and nurses, they basically did the fucking math on how much food they would have left if every single one of them ate 700 calories a day and rationed the water, and they figured they would have 2 days left. So they left so that their colleagues could survive, so they could keep saving lives. And she mentioned how, she texts every morning and every night, like, hey, are you alive? During the interview, the way in which it was being held, it felt like it was leading her to state, like, that the people that were there were aggressive or desperate in any way. And she explained that no, the resident medical team, medical staff there had to like explain to the people like, hey, they're here to help. They're also struggling. They also need food and water. Like, they're not here to take it from you guys. They're not here to hurt you. You know, yes, some of them are American. No, they're not with the Israeli government. And like, when this was happening, I told my mom, I was like, you know, I don't like that. I was like, they have fear and doubt around like medical staff. I'm like, that to me sounds like something else happened. That to me sounds like somebody went in and pretended to be medical staff. And I can't remember where I saw it, but someone posted somewhere of how like there was this woman that pretended to be medical staff, and like now they're like trying to find her because like she wasn't helping. Now, where did all of this technically start? And I say technically, my lovely hummingbirds, and I suggest you do your own research when it comes to this because it is dense. Now, while the Nakba in 1948 was one of the massive displacements and removal of the Palestinian people and official establishment of Israel in Palestine, the major spark that ignited all of what we are seeing unfold today actually started with the Balfour Declaration on November 2nd, 1917, from the British government to Lionel Walter Rothschild. It reads as follows, and yes, I am going to place a snippet of like the letter there so you guys can see it for yourselves, but it states the following. Dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object. It being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by the Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Signed, Arthur James Balfour, and authored by Walter Rothschild, Arthur Balfour, Leo Amory, and Lord Milner. So the purpose of this letter was for the West to essentially have a foothold in the Middle East, as France and Russia had already established theirs through Catholic and Eastern Orthodox support in the region. Now, and this is a brief history on everything, my lovely hummingbirds, but Zionism came forward in the late 19th century due to a rise in anti-Semitism movements in Europe. And it came with a division amongst Jewish people, with those who saw Judaism as their religion and those that saw it as their ethnicity and or nationality. So if you want like a deeper guide into all of this, AlJazeera.com has a really good one. There is a link in the description, along with links for Doctors Without Borders and anera.org, which are two ways to donate to the crisis currently occurring in Gaza. But back into a little bit of the history. So, who are the Rothschilds? And this dives into my conspiracy brain, but it also dives into follow the money, and I just So the Rothschilds, who this letter was addressed to because they were part of the Zionist Federation, they are an Ashkenazi Jewish family that possessed the biggest fortune in the 19th century. If you are familiar, my lovely hummingbirds, with anything to do with the Illuminati, then you have read up on this family to some capacity. Now, while I will not be discussing that aspect of this in today's episode, basically the family like has stocks in Apple, in JP Morgan, in NVIDIA, in Google, in Chevron, to name a few. They hold money pretty much fucking everywhere, if I'm completely honest with you. The family really came to prominence with Meyer Amschel Rothschild, and it came to prominence in the 1760s. There's a lot of, like I said, speculation and conspiracy that surrounds the family due to its elusiveness and wealth and intermarriage. There was a point during the 1824 through 1877 where 30 of the 36 male Rothschilds men that existed married their cousins, kind of like royalty used to do back in the day to like keep the bloodline pure, I guess, and to keep the money within the family. There is like no, they don't go around spilling the tea on each other, and there is like no autobiographies. There's nothing that can really give us like a full detail on this family, but their influences run deep across every sector you can possibly imagine when it comes to corporations and big business. Now, there's a lot of rumors that float about them, but to me, just with the fact that like they're involved with the creation of Israel, to me it seems sketchy. And like I said, that might be my conspiracy brain at play there, but I don't know, my lovely hummingbirds. I will say again, please do your own research. Along with Al Jazeera, there's also look into other individuals that are speaking on the subject, such as Dana Takruri. Dina, sorry. I really hope I pronounced her name correctly, but they did a documentary on the apartheid situation that was occurring in Gaza prior to this. Sean King on Instagram. I will say this though, if you do not want to see explicit content when it comes to like physical images of the babies and all those that are losing their lives, I would be careful when viewing his page. It is a lot of sensitive material. Huda from Huda Beauty, which like I love the woman even more now, has spoken out a lot since KW Bogan, Motasa Zeza, who is a reporter on the ground in Gaza. He daily posts to his Instagram when he's able to. And on the other end, so I don't know if you guys ever saw Vampire Diaries or the originals. Nate, who portrayed Cole in the originals, one of Klaus's brothers, goes by Nate Buzz on Instagram, is also on the ground in Israel. He is not shy about his support of Israel. He is not shy about him thinking that lies are being told on the opposite end. And when I tell y'all that like I am following everyone I can to see every side possible, it is gut-wrenching. Especially because like I am for the liberation of the Palestinian people. Okay. I am for Gaza being free, for Palestine being free, for a ceasefire, and seeing the other end of him being there. I cannot tell you that, like, it doesn't bring rage to me, but it also has brought a lot of interesting information that I do need to look a little more into before, like, releasing it here. Especially he interviewed parents of one of the hostages, and he's interviewed soldiers that are part of the IDF and all that. But once I have more on all of that, I will let you guys know. Other things to note. Why does this have anything to do with pop culture? Well, I've mentioned Saint Laurent on here previously. He is a Palestinian artist. He had a tour titled From Gaza with Love, and it has been canceled. I really hope he and his loved ones are okay. There was a thing with two sisters, I think it was in New York, that they were tearing down posters of the hostages, the Israeli hostages, and, you know, they were cursing out the lady that was like telling them to stop, and they were saying it was, you know, made up shit, propaganda. I do not particularly agree with those comments, because I think, one, the hostages do need to be released, but I also think that simultaneously with that Palestine deserves to be free, that a ceasefire is required. And with all of that, and like, that's why I mentioned how, like, all, like, conflicting viewpoints, or viewpoints that seem conflicting, can be true at once, because, like, to want the hostages that were kidnapped to be set free and get sent home to their families is okay. And if you want the carpet bombing to also stop, and all those babies that are losing their lives to not lose their lives anymore, while that is okay. Now, other things that have been, like, occurring with this, there's, like, a really big eye from all of us that are spectators as a whole, watching celebrities, watching government officials, watching who speaks up and who doesn't in regards to this. There have been a lot of celebrities that have done open letters in favor of Israel. Selena Gomez, I didn't get to see specifically what it was that she said, but I saw someone say that, like, she refused to pick a side, she refused to say ceasefire, and that, like, she played the victim, and she's like, I don't understand why you guys are attacking me. And people were like, girl, you're a UN representative, like, what you say matters, you know. And then, I mean, there is, on the other end of that, like, Susan Sarandon, which, like, I love that woman. I love her. She was at a pro-Palestinian rally in New York, and she spoke out, and she was like, you know, you don't have to be Palestinian to, like, support the Palestinian people, to feel for them in this moment, right? And I'm trying really hard not to cry, and I'm not succeeding. With that, there's also been, like, visible disparities between those that support Palestine and those that support the Israeli government. And I say this because, like, there have been Jewish people that have spoken out against what the Israeli government is doing. There have been, you know, Palestinian people that are speaking out against, like, Hamas. You know, there are people that, like I said, want it to stop, but also want the innocent lives on both sides spared. And with this, like, we are seeing a whole lot of shit develop. Besides, so before I get into that, Biden was here in Chicago, and there were protests that occurred in the West Town neighborhood where he was at for a fundraising event on Thursday, last Thursday. And there were thousands of protesters. That is one of many protests that are occurring around the world. I saw this thing where there was a holdup of like missiles that were being transported to Israel outside of like Australia. Like, people were impeding the transport of it. Whether it is New York, Washington, Milan, France, even, as I mentioned, in Tel Aviv, Germany, Romania, London, Chicago, like, wherever people are marching, they're asking for a ceasefire. And it feels so disheartening at times, because it really is being seen how those that are meant to lead us are not listening. And I can't sit here and be like, oh, this is brand fucking new and this has never happened before, because no, especially in the fucking US. Sorry, excuse me. The US loves to repeat its own fucking history, and like, I don't want to say that they love to keep its people hurt, but they really fucking do. That being said, if you are so inclined, my lovely hummingbirds, also in the description is the phone number to demand that your House representatives support a ceasefire. You can call the phone number 202-902-7660. And that is on behalf of the Grassroots Law Project. So go ahead, email them, call your representatives. Again, I can't tell you what to do, my lovely hummingbirds, but if you are so inclined to do so, do it. But besides that, what I feel overall, besides rage at this point, because like, so I saw this video of protests that were happening, and these kids started like kicking the fucking door of, I think they were trying to get into the train station during a pro-Palestinian rally, and they're fucking kicking the door, and people are like, oh, this is the piece that they're saying, and it's like, no, let's not pretend like in the history of protests there have not been people that have been thrown as infiltrados, as people that infiltrate it to make it into non-peaceful, so that it gives powers that be an excuse to arrest those that are protesting peacefully. It was seen during the Black Lives Matter protests for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. So like, you know, I think at this point, my lovely hummingbirds, so what I feel, right, what I feel, what I think, to keep a blind eye to the situation, to do nothing, to not say a fucking word, is fucked. To not research it, to not find a way to help, even though we're fucking far away, seems honestly fucking, to me, it just feels like a failing as humans. What I feel personally, as someone experiencing this as part of a larger collective, in life there are many truths that can coexist, including, as I said, those that feel like conflicting truths, like knowing that a call for a ceasefire and wanting the freedom of the Palestinian people can also be accompanied with a sadness for the innocent lives lost in the initial strike from Hamas into Israel, and the knowing that there is a difference between the Israeli government and Jewish people, as well as wanting the safe release of the hostages taken by Hamas on October 7th, and the absolute ceasefire and stopping of genocide of the Palestinian people in Gaza. Fears for both Palestinian and Jewish people here in the US, suffering for battles being fought overseas. It's okay to feel that too. Hurt and grieving for those that have not made it to see another day, as well as being grateful that you did, is okay. Even if it doesn't feel like it, even if it's fucking riddled with grief. Times as these are difficult, and while as a spectator I cannot even remotely imagine what Palestinians and Israelis are feeling, my heart goes out to all those suffering right now. This war and all we're viewing on a global fucking scale, from everything going on in Congo and Sudan and the Venezuelan migrant crisis here stateside, like, there's a lot of shit unfolding. And it is something that we are seeing unfold in real time, in large part, thankfully, due to social media. It has opened the access to see what's happening. It has given us the ability to see multiple sides to different things. And honestly, like, I am fearful that it's going to get censored here stateside, because over the first couple weeks of everything starting, like, there were people that, you know, were putting the phrase "from the river to the sea" in their videos and their reels or their posts. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And will. Or asking for a ceasefire, or talking about the fact that it is genocide, what is happening, or that they are war crimes. People's Instagram accounts were being shadow banned. They were being labeled as terrorists, which then Instagram went and apologized for. We are seeing things that are unfolding on the ground in Gaza due to reporters such as Muah, who is there. And in times like these, my lovely hummingbirds, it is not easy. It is not easy to take care of yourselves, of your mental, check up on everything, and to stay informed and inform others, and keep kindness throughout all the fucking rage. Because before we go into our moment of silence, I do want to say be kind. Be conscious. Be kind. Be conscious. Be conscientious. Be cautious if you're out protesting with what you're posting. And be kind. And be brave. And if by some fucking miracle of the world anyone in Gaza sees this, you are not alone. There are millions of people around the world screaming with you for a ceasefire. You are so brave. For everyone watching this, my lovely hummingbirds, speak up for those that can't. One of the things that is happening because of all of this unfolding on socials, and as I mentioned, like how people are getting shadow banned and shit, there have been so many people that have like talked about how they've lost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers, depending on how big their platform is, because they've taken a stance in support of the Palestinian people. Know that not everyone can speak up, even if it hurts them. Not everyone has the ability to risk their livelihoods, and it is tragic to think that like people could get fired for demanding a ceasefire and for stopping the genocide of the Palestinian people and the deaths of so many innocent lives. It seems insane to me that that's even a fucking reality. And I, here on POPCulture, will try to do my absolute best to get this fucking phone synced so that I can keep reporting and keep updating y'all on what's happening, and hopefully I will not be in sobbing fucking tears every time. But I did just want to remind y'all of that. Be kind to one another. Offer a helping hand, and the fact that the holidays are literally a fucking hop, skip, and a jump away brings a different kind of fucking sorrow to this. And while my heart would love it if everyone spoke up, I also get why not everyone can. So keep your heads up. Keep it pushing. And keep yourselves informed. But all that said, in my very, very sobbing voice, we're gonna take a moment of silence. But as I mentioned, I do want to do something a little different now for today's episode. So, what I wanted to do a little different for today, for the moment of silence, we're gonna light some candles. I don't have all white candles because I use the rest of my white candles for some other stuff I was doing. But typically, for the Day of the Dead, we light 4 candles representing the 4 cardinal points, north, south, east, and west. Think of it like a compass, guiding the souls of our loved ones. Candles each have a different meaning, like color representation wise, and this is going a little into a grain of salt, but white is purity, orange is resilience, yellow is happiness and innocence, if I'm not mistaken, and purple is grievance. So we're gonna light them, and I'm gonna put them here on my altar slash desk. And then we're gonna hold our moment of silence. So yeah, white one first. Purple. Yellow. And orange. Now my lovely hummingbirds, the 4 candles are lit, and like I said, I know it's no longer Day of the Dead, but I still wanted to, I guess, make an observance for all the lives that have been lost. I don't know if, like, I don't know about other cultures, but at least for my family in Mexican culture, growing up, when someone passed, we'd always light a candle and say a prayer or a vigil for them. But yeah, I would appreciate it if you all join me in this moment of silence. Thank you all for joining me in that moment of silence. I greatly appreciate it. Now, up next for the next segment of today's episode, for today's topic of conversation in need of a release. I know usually I would have like more non-tragic related news and all that, but I really just, I wanted to cover what's been going on and do that catch up and do today's topic of conversation. All the other news, hopefully, God willing, I'll be able to cover next week. But yeah, in need of a release. So for today's episode, anyway, what is a release? So the official definition is this, and it is to allow or enable to escape from confinement or set free, according to Oxford Languages. So a release is essentially the moving on, letting go, progressing, healing from a situation that is difficult, a moment that is negative, a negative interaction with a person, place, thing, traumatic event, situation, etc., etc., etc. We often find ourselves needing a release after those moments, whether they are really big, like, say, surviving a global pandemic, or, you know, surviving a horrible car accident, or even something smaller, like being belittled or berated for a prolonged period of time. Needing a release can also happen after a shitty day. It can happen after a difficult conversation with someone near and dear to you. It can happen after a fucking moment of road rage. A release can happen, a release can be needed at any point. But it is up to us to recognize the level and degree and severity in which that release is required. Now, I have been wanting to do this episode for a really long time, and I know I made a comment during passing of the torch where I was like, because your girl needs a release. I need a solid ass cry. I need a head of punching bag. I need to do some shadow work. I have a lot that I need to do. And unfortunately, my current environment is not conducive to me being able to properly release. Now, what are ways and methods that one can release? So it can come in many shapes, many forms, including those that are healthy and unhealthy, such as like effective communication, and like that becomes more of not just like an on-hand kind of thing, like I've mentioned Dear Man before, where you like write out, you know, what you're gonna say to someone, so that it is fair on both ends. This is what Dear Man means. I know when like the whole group chat incident with the Cardeners happened, and like was one therapist spoke about effective communication and really speaking from an I feel perspective versus like lashing out or diagnosing the other party with like what's wrong with them type of thing. Sometimes, or at least for me, sometimes mantras, like manifestation mantras, help. If I'm like not feeling good, those for me personally help more with like a reframing of the mind and mindset of like, say, I don't know, my body dysmorphia is kicking in and I'm like, damn, you know, I don't like what I'm seeing. I could be like, damn, look at you, you woke up today, you brushed your teeth, yes, we are healthy, we are wealthy, we are blessed, you know, just going and down that route. I will say this though, knowing how to release is not always easy. And I don't think I mentioned that I think I'm at a Reddit, and then I thought I mentioned it, but there are healthy and unhealthy ways of releasing. And those ways often come with the want to find a one solution band-aid to every release that is required, because there are different releases that might be needed. As I mentioned, like I need to hit a punching bag or cry or scream. Your body will tell you, your environment will tell you. And honestly, your mental, you know, one of the things that's like super important of like the journey of self-love and self-healing, especially when it comes of being able to understand when you need a release, is getting to understand yourself in that process. Now, as I mentioned, the like one band-aid all solution, that's usually when the unhealthy options kick in. And by unhealthy, I mean the drinking and the smoking and the fucking and the sucking and the licking and lashing out and anger and harming and sushi, which is this. Assault, whether physical or verbal, against yourself or others. You know, then the healthy ones, which are like crying and writing. And when I was writing this out, I heard scripting. I don't know who that's for, but if that's for you, scripting. Scripting is essentially like the written form of manifestation. Anyway, reading books, watching movies, phoning a friend, checking in on your seeds. Your seeds are essentially these, and they represent our basic needs. Sleep, eating, exercise, movement, doctor's orders, and self-care. Now, during the process of getting to know ourselves and getting to know that, you know, maybe some of the ways in which we were choosing to release were not the best, it takes a lot of acknowledgement and forgiveness of self. Self-hurt, hate, or resentment towards past versions of ourselves is normal, especially when we did a lot of shit to survive that might not have been the best. So the reason that, like, I'm bringing this up, did I think it would be in the 11th month of the year? No, I had this planned for way before like October. But nonetheless, in the beginning of the year, I spoke of, like, the pursuance of dreams and our timelines and understanding that, like, there is no right or wrong per se, and understanding that, like, we're not behind schedule, if that makes sense. Like, you, my lovely hummingbirds, are right on time, on your right schedule, as is, like, personally, me. I'm about to be 30 next year. And as a Latina woman, it comes with a whole lot of different pressures. And my situation being what it is currently, I cannot tell you, I have not had a lot of moments of, oh my god, I'm ruining my life. Oh my god, I'm so behind. Oh my god, it should be this, it should be that, it should look this way. Especially right now, like, it hurts so much more because usually my spooky season is always very, like, active and, like, consistent. I'm, like, thriving in spooky season and winter usually, which I'm like, pattern. But this year I'm not, and it's been hard. Being in need of release is normal, okay? Especially because, like, to move forward in life, right, to keep progressing, to continue on the self-love and self-healing journey, it is important to understand that there is a difference of carrying the lessons we have learned from our past forward, like a well of knowledge, but it's also equally important that we drop the pain, hurt, and suffering that is attached to those lessons. It is known that often, more often than not, a lot of our traumas happen very early on in life. And it can get harder to discern when we need a break, when we need to take a moment to stop and reassess the situations that we currently find ourselves in, the emotions we find ourselves in. Especially, like, my lovely hummingbirds, if you didn't grow up with, like, mental health being an open conversation, or emotional regulation, or physical health, or all of that, right? It can be harder. A lot of shit that I've learned in regards to all of that, I learned in the medical system because of all my gorgeous, gorgeous health issues, including endometriosis. Amongst everything else I got going on. And I don't know, I just feel like for a lot of Latinos, a lot of people of color, it kind of becomes this behemoth of a demon to deal with later on. And You know, and that's when a lot of like generational curse shit starts kicking in of like, damn, am I healing or am I repeating a pattern or cycle that was repeated for me because it's all I've known, and am I actually willing to learn something different to keep growing and doing better, not just for myself but for the generations that follow. I am currently also in the middle of my Saturn return, so I am living a fabulous existence right now, my lovely hummingbirds. Great. That's part of that reframing of the mind. And I've mentioned what a reframe is. It's essentially like taking a thing that the perspective could be this absolutely fucking sucks, or like, you know, even though this can suck, there is this that is the outcome that's like an opposite to it, kind of. Like my endometriosis. Like, yeah, it sucks I have endo, but also I've been very privileged to be able to learn all this wonderful information that I can then divulge with others that might not have the access to it, type of thing. Also, it's taught me how to like take care of my body and pay attention to it and the warning signals it fires off. Still working on like actively listening to those warning signals, but we're gonna leave that alone. Releasing is important because it makes space. So the reason for like the makeup look, right? Vampire type of look, because you know, vampires, they suck your blood. But energy vampires are a thing. And that might be next week's makeup look if this goes according to plan, we shall see. And the Day of the Dead is a remembrance of our loved ones and a celebration of their lives. While it can be accompanied with grief and missing them, it is first and foremost a celebration. It's that releasing of like those hurts, to celebrate the good, to acknowledge the good. That's why the makeup look. But in order to like move forward in life and say like, if for example, my lovely hummingbirds in the journey of self-love and self-healing, you're like, I want to like have a different like eating regimen, and it's not gonna just come like, oh, tomorrow you're gonna wake up and like, say you've hated kale your entire freaking life and now you're like, yes, kale, that's what I want to eat today. No, it takes effort and time and dedication and getting rid of some fucking habits that do not help the new healthy lifestyle that you're trying to encompass. Now, it also comes with this like resilience. Releasing brings forward understanding, processing of our emotions with that understanding, and it pushes us to fight for what we actually want and helps us get through the discomfort of that. Because during releases, catastrophizing, real easy. Self-sabotaging, real easy. Self-accountability, real hard. Self-accountability in it is not always the easiest, right? Because when we are in moments of like high emotion, it's really hard to see with perspective to like the situation at hand. Releasing also requires a whole lot of looking back to look forward. And with that whole lot of looking back, sometimes the anchor that holds us to the future is the present moments we live in. Also, I keep mentioning emotions a lot. When you're in a state of release, my lovely hummingbirds, and like when I say release, I mean like kind of like shadow work, because shadow work is diving deep into your traumas and demons and all of that. But releases can also happen for good things. what do I mean by that? Well, y'all ever hear about nostalgia and what that is? It's the whole looking back to like prettier times of our lives. While there can be a healthy dose of nostalgia, there can also be a very not healthy dose of it, where it basically suctions us in and we don't want to get out of it because our brain is like, no, it's happy here, it feels good here, why are we leaving it? Well, that's in the past and you gotta move forward, right? So there can be a whole lot of different emotions that can happen at once, such as being sad but also excited, right? Grieving a moment but also being grateful that it occurred, being pissed as fuck over the current situation, but also simultaneously being like hopeful that there's a reason for it or that something better is coming out of that, right? Now, it's not always the easiest to identify our emotions, and trust me, I was reading some on my list of emotions the other day. I was like, I haven't done a check-in with myself in a while. I am gonna probably do a thing here where I list all of the emotion. I have a little nifty page in my binder from my Chroma program that has all the emotions, and I'm gonna find a way to list them all. But because it's not always easy, because like I found myself so many times before saying like, oh, I'm tired, when I'm not tired. I'm stressed, depressed, anxious, angry, hungry. Not like the physical hungry, but like the desiring for more type of feeling and more of a sensation. But yeah. Also, releasing definitely helps improve the value of your life, and it also helps you hone into what your values and boundaries are. Remember, your boundaries is not to control other people. It is to place a meter on what you can and cannot withstand. As far as values go, though, I can't really tell you what your values should be, my lovely hummingbirds, and you should really take time to sit down and write down like, what is it that I value, what is it that is meaningful to me, what is it that is impactful to my life, what are the things that I do and do not care about, what matters, what is important presently and for future self as well. There are many skills that can be used during release, as I mentioned: reading, writing, movies, phoning a friend. Also, if emotions are running high, tip, which is like, it's a sensory thing, grabbing ice, putting a ice pack on your neck, grabbing a stress ball, play, things like that to really get you present. Stop in case of rumination during moments of release where like you just can't break that thought pattern, or stop, halt, whichever you want to do. Also, I don't know, personally I love art therapy. That's my shit. I like doodling, I don't know. But really sitting with yourself. And one of the things about like releasing though, don't get stuck in perpetual release, okay? Don't start always looking for something. Rest is very important as well. It is okay to have a nothing happened day, a neutral day. It's okay to have a very happy day. Work through the sensations. If you're like having a really happy day and you're like something's gonna happen, you're waiting for the left shoe to drop, you work through that. Work through why that is. And really keep yourself here. Keep yourself present. Talk to yourself. I know it sounds crazy, but do. Meditation. Super helpful. Like I said, there's guided meditations. But as far as check-ins. So for check-ins, it is your name, your pronouns, your emotions, distress level, avoidance, workability, obstacles, achievements, and skills and safety concerns. And as far as avoidance, it's to the extent which you are avoiding things in your life, both internally, such as emotions, thoughts, memories, or sensations, and externally, such as people, places, situations, or responsibilities. Distress is the amount of distress that you're currently experiencing. Workability, the extent to which your current coping skills are moving you towards a life that feels valuable to you. Obstacles, anything that is getting in the way of you doing the things that matter to you. Internal and external. And then achievements, anything you'd like to celebrate or give yourself a shout out for. Skills, any skills you learned and have like employed, and safety concerns if you are feeling safe or unsafe with yourself, around others, etc. And then a checkout, so like in the program it was in the morning we check in upon arrival, and then as we're leaving for the day we check out. And for that one, same name, it's the same, it's name, pronouns, current emotions, distress level, but it also includes PM plans, reflections, and safety concerns. Now, the way that like you can employ check-ins with yourself in daily life, I like to do it as like using that, not just, also, I'm like bouncing all over the place, so I'm so sorry. My brain has it's been great. I'm doing great. It's awesome. No, but what was I saying? So first off, pronouns, if you are so inclined to use them, you can. You don't have to. Okay, I'm just saying. But the way that I do it, so when I'm gonna do check-ins with myself, I like to do it more like, I've tweaked it since trauma program. Haven't done it in a bit just because life. But usually I'll start with my name, my pronouns. For me, I've added my age into it, and like there's a reason for that, but I've added that into it, and I'll talk about like my emotions, distress levels, avoidance, workability, all of that in the morning, right? And then at like the, not end of the day, but definitely towards like leaning into closer towards dinner hours, I'll do a check-in, see what I'm going to do afterwards to like either keep myself occupied or tasks that I need to get done that I wasn't able to do during the day for whatever reason. Or I kind of like meld the two together depending on like what my schedule looks like for the day. That, along with other tools, is very, very helpful. I will say this, right? Because I said, like, try not to get stuck in perpetual releasing, like, perpetual healing, always trying to find something that has to be wrong, all of that. There is no right or wrong way to release per se. You can cry, you can write, you can scream, kick a punching bag, things that are not going to be like harmful to you. Also important to do like the self-care that comes after a release, right? If you spent the day crying your sorrows away, make sure you do like a face roller, like those little jade rollers, and do like a little eye mask and just really get yourself like rehydrated as well. Drink water, because one, life itself is not easy. Okay, and there are no right or wrong ways to release, because they all involve us using what we know at the time to deal with the situation at hand. The reason I say do not get stuck in like perpetual releasing or healing and all of that is because, like, for example, right? So say, one thing I like to do, and this is more on like the spiritual side of things, I will do releases, right? And in a release, I'll write something down, and I have a little cauldron, and I'll, you know, whatever it is that I'm trying to let go of, I'll write it down. This is a little more towards the witchy spiritual side, just so you guys are not just doing it out here out the wazoo, not protecting yourselves and your space and all that while you do it. But I write it down, and I light that bitch on fire in my cauldron where it's safe. Now, that being said, if I keep lighting a bunch of fucking papers on fire every moon ritual that I do, and I never take it out, at some point, all of those ashes are either gonna spill over, or I'm gonna catch my table on fire. Because of just, there's no space for it. It's easy to get stuck in a notion of constant healing when we're plagued by fear to move forward from what we know is comfortable. And also when, you know, it's like hard to forgive ourselves too for past decisions, past actions, past chaos. Now, I am not perfect by any fucking means. And as a recovering people pleaser, is some of the things that I've like had issues with, right, is recognizing moments where, like, to me it doesn't seem like that big of a deal because I'm so used to it that I kind of brush it off. And instead of releasing it and that processing, and first off acknowledging what it is I'm feeling, processing that emotion, and then releasing, letting go of that emotion, taking that lesson from it, being like, okay, cool, and keep on going. It's that acknowledgement of like, hey, this is not normal. Hey, this shouldn't be happening. For example, right, one of like the biggest issues, and you would think it wouldn't be an issue, right, like seeing all the videos that I've seen thus far in the past month and a week of all the tragedies in Gaza. There's this fear that I have of people becoming desensitized to what is being shown because they see so much of it. And I had a conversation with someone about how growing up in, especially in bigger cities, in inner city turmoil and chaos and toxic environments, you become so accustomed to seeing certain tragic and or graphic things that it becomes such a norm that your brain is like, oh, it's whatever. And not whatever in a sense of it doesn't matter, but just like, okay, I've seen this already. I've seen a lot of this already. And we grow this desensitization and this emotional numbness, if you will, to what we're seeing. So that when something that doesn't even reach that caliber it seems subpar that sometimes it might not even seem worthy of releasing or healing or dealing with. Like jealousy, emotional pain, hurt from a relationship or an argument, or career changes. I don't know if you guys ever have had to take that test where it asks you, you know, how many like big changes have you been in your life, and it shows like death, marriage, breakups, career changes, things like that, employment changes. There is like so many factors that are technically considered life-altering, mental-altering, or traumatic events. It doesn't always have to be something on the most drastic end of the spectrum. Be gracious with yourself. As I mentioned, I've been in a trauma program, I've been in therapy, I've done a whole lot of shit to even get this far. And while I'm still learning and I'm still growing and sharing all that I can with you guys on here from what I do learn along the journey of self-love and self-healing, honestly, and I will say this feels like my Lady Gaga one person in the room believing in you thing. Because, and I know I've said it on here before, one of my therapists, Jeremy, love him, he was amazing, but, and not verbatim, I went in one day and was a fucking wreck, and sitting there and looking at him like, why am I paying you? And he asked me what I thought the point of therapy was, and I was like, I don't know, I want to be happy. And he's like, well, therapy's not to make you happy. It's to raise your plateau. Happiness is just an emotion that we have attributed to peace. And with that, in therapy, you gain the skills and you set up a routine to, like, work on those skills in your daily life. Sometimes in the need to release, we often seek closure from external sources, and it's not always attainable. And more often than not, it's not fulfilling, my lovely hummingbirds, because when we go seek closure from like an external place, we're never going to get the answer that we think we are. It's like revenge. It's useless. And like, again, when I like was typing this shit, I was like, that's an interesting thought. What am I channeling? But when I mentioned scripting, I mentioned revenge and closure. My lovely hummingbirds, what's going on? But in those moments where you're looking for a resolution, a reason for the experience that you had, the lesson from it, and the consequences to your health from it, whether it is mental, spiritual, or physical, in that like need for closure, my lovely hummingbirds, it's really important to understand, as I mentioned before with boundaries, you cannot control others into giving you, I guess, satiating is the better word for that, of like what you want to hear all the time, because as different views can, like, as conflicting views can be true, so can two opposing perspectives in a situation, especially in relationships. Now, another thing, and this is like more towards, again, a grain of salt a little bit. Careful with triggering people into healing, into spiritual healing, into mental healing. Not everyone is prepared for it. Not everyone is even supposed to do it in this lifetime. Be cautious. And if you are actively seeking to heal others, one of the biggest things that I've like learned across reading and all the spiritual shit is what we see in others is a reflection of how we view ourselves to some degree. There are people that are just genuinely sweet people and people that are genuinely not so sweet people. Now, assess your environments. Are they conducive to proper communication and emotional regulation, feeling your feelings, if you will? Don't fall prey to things being taboo when it comes to emotions, because if we've learned anything from the people that are no longer with us due to self-harm, due to suicidal tendencies, due to addictions, is that emotions know no age, no gender, no ethnicity, no freaking monetary value of assets. Emotions simply exist. And we must work with our brain to make sure that they don't get the best of us. So, originally for this video, I was going to do a Marilyn Monroe look. That didn't happen. But it was because I had listened to an audio where they ask her if she's generally happy. Well, they just asked her, "Are you happy?" And she responded with, she is happy when she does things right at work, when things go well at work. But if she is generally happy, no. If anything, she is generally miserable. And then she ha-ha-ha'd it. And I was like, well, if that ain't the most millennial response I ever did hear with the self-deprecating humor. And I was like, oh my god, that's perfect for in need of a release, you know. She exemplifies not being able to heal and grow properly, in great part because of her environment. But I'm gonna wait on the Marilyn look for a bit, just because I have some other angles that I'm gonna do for that one. Like I said, next week we're gonna be focusing on energy vampires. Other things that you can do in the journey of self-love and self-healing to kind of help with release is do some SMART goals. Figure out of what it is that you're trying to do to begin with. Okay, these are SMART goals. In the grand scheme of life, as a whole, a journey, a choice. That's what life is. It's a journey filled with choices and results of those choices that lead to more choices. And sometimes those choices lead to lessons. And the lessons do not stop in the journey of life, love, self-love, and self-healing. Now, I've been bouncing around back and forth. I know, my lovely hummingbirds. I'm so sorry. Like, I feel scattered lately, honestly. But how do we employ a release in our daily life? Now, I know I said don't get stuck in perpetual releasing, but on those days where something happens that needs to be released, do some check-ins. Some sensory meditation, a body scan, which is basically like going in through every section of your body and being like, okay, my head, take a deep breath, let go, okay, nothing hurts, cool. My eyes, deep breath, let go, nothing hurts, cool. You know, you let go, down, nose, same, proceed all the way down, wherever you're like, ow, wait, what was that? really to get to know your body and understand where your signals are of like, hey, this is too much. Good smelling candles. It is good smelling candle season. Granted, every season is good smelling candle season. But yeah, go get some candles. Set the ambiance for your healing. Take breaks. Very important. Stay hydrated. Take your vitamins. Rest. Get some proper sleep in there. Okay? My little bullet point here says, yeah, add that little tidbit about endo warrior issues and stress struggles at present time. And I was like, wow, we're just calling me out like this. That's fine. So with lack of proper sleep and the current stress I'm having, my distension has been a bitch. My nausea has been atrocious. My sleep, in turn, because of all of this and the discomfort, my lower abdomen has been trash, which does not help to my need for rest. But alas, I'm managing it. Yes, I get the wink from WandaVision. Now, as I had mentioned, the negative ways in which we can do some releases. Take, and this is where the self-accountability comes in, and like I said, it's not always the easiest. Take note of when those things happen, like a physical note, if you have to, of what is like the moments that triggers the unhealthy coping mechanisms and triggers that to be the response to release, and what you can do moving forward to like replace that with something better. Ooh, also, before I get into the other part, do not hyper rationalize your emotions away. I repeat, do not hyper rationalize your emotions away. I am very guilty of this. Do not let yourself feel your emotions, even if it feels silly, if there is seemingly no reason for it. Allow yourself that time to feel. It'll be super helpful. And for all my spiritual babies out there, if you're feeling it for a reason. Look into that. Allow yourself to feel it. And then, do your little brujita thing and figure out why the fuck you feeling what you're feeling. What download are you ignoring? What message from the universe? Now, some questions to ask ourselves, my lovely hummingbirds, when in need of a release. First off, why? That is my favorite. Why? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I replaying this thought, this memory over and over and over again? Why is it coming to mind? Why is this lesson repeating itself? Why am I having difficulty to let go? Why do I have an over sense of urgency? How am I releasing? How am I processing or not processing? Because one of the things, my lovely hummingbirds, if you've made it this far along the journey of self-love and self-healing, you know damn well when you're refusing to process an emotion, a situation, physical or emotional cue that you have for yourself. Okay? How does it make me feel? This situation, person, place, or thing, this emotion, this moment. I lost my place, I'm sorry. How does it make me feel? Okay. Also, what brought this on? What brought on this emotion, this thought? Like, say for example, you're washing the dishes and you hear a loud bang, and then you like go into a cycle of a thought of a negative moment or memory where it was a similar sound, that would be an example of like the external thing brought it forward. Other things that could happen is anniversaries. So an anniversary of a traumatic event, and you might not immediately recognize it, but your body's like, hey, remember this day friggin' 50 billion years ago? We were in danger. Do something about it. And you're just standing there like, I have massive anxiety. What's wrong? So just, work yourself through that. Body keeps the fucking score. But yeah, your triggers, be mindful of them, as well as like, even if not something as drastic, but seeing something that reminds you of not a happy time, smelling something, freaking, you forget you hate broccoli, and then you eat broccoli and you're like, why'd I do that? How am I choosing to release this? Healthy tools or negative tools? And why? I love asking myself this one. This one is, will this matter in blank amount of time down the line? If the answer is no, then why am I presently so distraught over this situation, person, place, or thing, or situation? And how can I find a solution versus simply viewing it as a momentous problem? Is there a purpose for this occurring? That is more on, like, that's more brujita, that's a little more spiritual. I'm a firm believer in everything for a reason, even if that reason is not always a good one. Even if that reason is not always something that we understand in this moment or in this lifetime. That's just my personal thing. But why is it occurring? And is it something that we can fix, that is within our control, or not? Is the way in which I am releasing value aligned? And I know I briefly touched on values earlier. No, I didn't. I was like, I can't tell you what your values are. But that's why I say get to know your values. Get to know what it is that you value in life. What means the most to you? What means the least to you? What, like, for example, right? Values can be anything from, like, and I'm not talking like valuables, I mean more so standards to which you hold yourself accountable to, standards with which you hold your way of life up to, like things like that. Is it within your values? Is it within your moral compass? The ways in which you are healing, is it aligned, for all my spiritual babies out there, with your highest version of yourself? Like, if you answered no to any of the following questions, ask yourself, why am I doing it? Dealing with consequences of the form of release. So for this one, for example, right, if you're like, I need to release this, and you start crying, okay, are you going to deal with all the stuff that I mentioned to depuff your face afterwards, and take a good nap and drink some water, and do some feel good stuff so that you balance out the chemicals in your brain again, so that serotonin starts flowing? Or on the other side of it, if you go and you start drinking like crazy, and you go on a fucking bender, and you're smoking like crazy, are you gonna deal with, one, that massive ass hangover you're gonna have the next day, plus all the physical shit that comes with a hangover, like the heartburn and the throwing up and the headaches and the like sleep deprivation, plus if you were smoking on top of that, all the caffeine and the sore throat and dry eye and all of that? which are you more, it's like, not which is better, but like, what is it that like would be more beneficial for you to deal with as a recovery point? Physically nursing yourself back to health from a bender, or giving yourself a little spa day and watching a happy movie? I've done both, so I can't say. Can't tell you which to choose, my lovely hummingbirds. But I would prefer it if you did the spa one. Personally. Jeez. I'm a mess. So, in order to release, to keep growing and going on in life, what is it that I want? People do grow. Inherently, I think to some degree we don't change per se. That's just my own belief system, and I mean that more in the sense of like the ways in which we toxically behave don't necessarily change, which is why it's like an active choice not to fall into those tendencies. But people do grow as they learn. Mindsets do change. Okay, they do. They change with time, with lessons, with all of that. And in order to keep growing, you have to reassess the things that you've learned thus far, done thus far. Been like, okay, I said I wanted this when I started out. What do I want now? We are a month out from the end of the year, my lovely hummingbirds. All that shit you said in January you were gonna do, I need you to look at it and really assess with yourself why you did or did not do some of those things, what does and does not align with you. Find that balance of like, if I keep holding on to this, is it my salvation, or is it just the poison that's killing me slowly? Now, I will say this. The releases do get better. Okay, they really do. I can't say they get easier because experiences change and sometimes experiences get harder as we get older. But the release itself does get easier. And even if it's hard to believe every day, my lovely hummingbirds, it is worth it. Life is worth it. And if nobody told you today, I am so very fucking happy that you are alive. And if all you did today was get up, wake up, brush your teeth, sprinkled some water on your face, made a coffee, laid the fuck back down, that's okay too. But make sure you don't stay there. Don't keep yourself stagnant. Don't keep shoving down the pain. But be conscientious with your release. If you or anyone you know, my lovely hummingbirds, is struggling with mental health, call or text 988. Use your resources. Get help. Because you matter. Your life matters. And for whoever the fuck I'm channeling for, you are meant to do incredible fucking things in this life. And the world is so much better with you in it. I love love you, my lovely hummingbirds, okay? Do not let your light get snuffed by the things that are meant to be the building blocks to your success. It's hard. Trust me, I've gotten the tower card entirely too many times in my life, and I'm like, here we go with the drastic change, although a few of those hurt a lot more than than I thought they would. I love you, my lovely hummingbirds. I really do. I know I've been gone for a month. I'm sorry again. I really am. But I love y'all. And if you're still tuning in, thank you. If you watch these freaking long ass episodes that I've been doing recently all the way through, I love you, and you have no idea how grateful I am and how much it means to me. But keep going, because you are so fucking worth it. Your life is so worth it, and hold on to your vision of what it is that you want to do in this life. Okay, my lovely hummingbirds, I'm gonna go and take my contacts out now. So, you know, I was gonna say I'm gonna go take my contacts out and cry, but I kind of want to do a grain of salt reading in this look. And now I am conflicted. Can I like postpone my release for 5 more hours? We shall see. Anyway, my lovely hummingbirds, that's it from me for you for today. As always, les mando mucha paz, muchos besos, y les recuerdo que miren hacia la luna, sending you much peace, many kisses, and reminding you to always look up at the moon. I love you all so much. Stay kind, stay courteous, keep your heads up, keep researching, ceasefire, free Palestine, and all that good shit. But yeah, that's it. I love you guys so much. Okay, stay safe out there. Yeah, okay, love you, bye.